I'm Dean Zelinsky, and this is the podcast. Okay, we're on the air.
Yes.
Hey, there's three on the mic today, Parker. You want to talk about that?
A little bit different. Yeah, we got some guests today. We're shooting a couple of these actually, and there's a party going on downstairs. So if you hear any, I don't want to hear anything in the YouTube comments about the audio quality when you got a million people and birds and dogs and
zoo. The menagerie. Okay, who's our special guest? You want to announce our special guest today?
We've got Grady Champion here today.
Right.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
And I think many people who watch this are already going to know who you are, but why don't we all introduce ourselves briefly this round, and then we'll take it from there. So who are you? What do you do? What's your impact?
Grady Champion here. I was Dimebag's guitar tech from Pantera, and I started in 1989, late 88, 89, and all the way up until 2001. And then I've been in the music industry ever since, and have since reformed, working with Pantera on the new tour.
Yeah.
And who are you?
I'm Dean Zelinsky. I'm Grady's friend.
Yeah. Most commonly known from the Dean Zelinsky show, right? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
You're not a famous guitar builder or nothing like that.
I built 4 guitars in my day.
Yeah.
This is Parker. Yeah.
I'm Parker. I build guitars for Dean and by proxy Dimebag Guitars, and I work in the custom shop here in Highland Park. And we're hanging out today.
Right. Does a little marketing. So anyways, more importantly than Grady being Darrell's tech, is he was also Darrell's friend, and they go way back.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you could lead the interview.
All right. I'm going to poke some questions. Talk as long as you want or not.
All right. Fair enough. Sounds good.
And, I'm sure there's a lot of diehard fans that might know some of these questions, but I don't even know some of these questions. So It's okay to be redundant. But why don't we talk about how you and Darrell first met and what brought you two together in a musical context?
All right. Well, we first met in junior high school. I was in 8th grade or 7th grade. Don was in 8th. And I knew of him. I wasn't friends with him because he was already in the what you'd call the freak club, and I was in the nerd club, right? So
did he have long hair at this point already?
It was starting to grow out.
Okay.
So I was basically Anthony Michael Hall.
Okay.
In Breakfast Club. Okay.
Yep.
And anyway, so I just always ran past him in the hall. I knew he, played guitar with Pantera. I knew that they were going to be a big thing, and I was gifted a couple cassettes, and I was listening to him play, and I just started getting into guitar at that time, and I just was like, whoa, this dude's going to be something. So when I would see him in the hallways, and then, my things of like, oh, that's Darrell, would started to be like, hey, man, trying to like be friends, but it just wasn't the thing.
Can I interject here?
Yeah.
So he was legendary in high school, like...
We're 8th grade right now.
Or 8th grade.
Yeah, so, he played guitar, and everybody knew it, and Pantera's first album was 83, so it's like it was a thing.
Like the power metal, hair metal stuff.
Yeah,
Diamond.
Metal Magic, Diamond,
So wait, how old are you guys?
How old are you?
13, 12?
7th grade, 12, and 13. So he was just, it was just like one of those things where I just knew that he, was... I don't know. He was just like popular that way.
How big was your middle school and high school?
I didn't go to high school with him. We went to different high schools.
Okay.
But middle school, I don't know, 200 people, 300 people.
Okay.
It was big. It was a
200 people per class?
No,
no classes.
Like 30 people per class. So it was a big public school.
Your graduating class of 8th grade was...
No, classroom. You talk about classrooms or the graduating class?
I'm talking about the actual size of the school.
Yeah.
Like my 8th grade class was 89 people. We went out to a small school.
Right.
We're going to cut this. Anyway, disregard. Okay.
Classroom and class are 2 different things. So
I meant the class, like...
All of them.
Oh, the whole class.
Like how big was 8th grade?
Yeah.
It was huge. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I give it was just big.
Okay.
I don't know the amount of kids or whatever, but it was big. There was 2 levels.
Yeah.
And,
okay, so a pretty substantial school.
Yeah.
Okay, so 12, 13, he's already got this guitar reputation, and you're kind of poking around. So then where do we go?
Then it, two things that stick out to me was I was in Air Force ROTC.
Okay.
And the second that he saw me every Friday we had to wear our uniform, our Air Force uniform. And the first time that he saw that, he just like laughed right in my face, And so then that was kind of like the junior high relationship. It really wasn't that much.
Okay.
We were just kind of acquaintances.
Yeah, passers-by.
Then when the high school thing started, we went to different high schools, but he still remembered me and whatnot. And the next thing that happened was I was in a band that was a new wave band.
Okay.
And we were at an Iron Maiden show, and we were walking around, and we had skinny ties on, God knows why. And he like goes, dude. And I walked over. He goes, what are you doing here? And I'm like, oh, we're coming to check out Iron Maiden. He goes, dude, you need to be at Duran Duran concert. Fuck all that shit, But and then that was like a time that we crossed paths. And then the time that we crossed paths that we became really tight friends was I was working at a music store called Rainbow Music, and he was giving guitar lessons. And I was like, hey, dude, let me digress. Pantera was playing a show at Six Flags over Texas, and I was at a different high school, but I knew they were playing, and so I was in photography class, so my assignment, I went to the Southern Palace at Six Flags, and I took some black and white film, and it came out really good.
Okay.
For our school newspaper.
Do you still have any of those photos?
Whatever. Yeah, I've got 2 rolls of it.
I got a question.
Euthanize the goddamn bird.
I'm going to kill the bird, okay? Do you want to pause this and I'll go kill the bird? Because I have a question for Grady, okay?
Yeah, we'll take a little quick break here.
No, you guys just sit tight. Don't talk. I'm going to go kill the bird.
Okay, kill the bird.
I'm a vegan. I don't kill animals, but I'm going to reprimand it heavily.
I'm a vegan. I don't kill birds, but I do duct tape their mouth shut.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question.
Okay.
You're in 7th, 8th grade, right? And you mentioned Pantera. So
Pantera was a thing at that point.
But what age was there already a band named Pantera?
It was 82, 83.
But what age is that, like obviously in junior high?
8th grade. That's when he first started playing.
So at that point, who was Pantera? No Phil.
No, it was Terry Glaze. There was a bass player named Tommy Bradford, and it wasn't Rex in the very beginning, and Vinny and Darrell.
Okay.
What's the age difference between Vinny and Darrell?
What is it, 2 years? 2 years.
Was Vinny older?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But Vinny was already on drums and Darrell was on guitars because I think they started learning the other way, right?
Yeah, the total Alex Eddie Van Halen thing.
Right.
Darrell started playing drums and then switched to guitar.
But by the time there was Pantera, Darrell was already on guitar.
Yeah.
Was he already playing in ML, or was this still him?
ML was his first love.
Because wasn't he? I've seen that clip of him when he was like 16 at like some contest. Mm-hmm. Yeah, with like the big like fro blown out.
The big
man.
He was a big Q-tip dude.
Yeah.
But he had the Kiss Les Paul at some. Was that his first?
That was his first guitar. It was a Honer.
Right.
And he just emulated Ace.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But that was before the ML.
Yes.
But probably not long before, right?
No, not long before.
Because I got pictures of him with braces on his teeth.
Yeah, and then he won that Dean, and won that ML, and that was the end of it. As far as guitar shapes for him go.
Right. By the way, I was I don't know if this is for today, but I was hosting those contests with Arnold and Morgan Music in this other music store, and like I get a call like on Monday morning. You got to see this guy who won your guitar. He's amazing. He came in with his mother. He's too young to get in the. Mm-hmm. We hosted him in a bar,
right?
And he came in with his mother, and he blows everybody away.
Yeah,
yeah. It's crazy, like the name and the, just the whole legend of things. When I was a kid about him playing guitar, it's like when he first started. When we heard that he was first giving lessons at a music store, it's like me and all my buddies would get on our bikes, and it's a 30-minute ride, but we would ride all the way to this music store, and we'd just like park outside the music store just to listen to him play,
Wow.
And we wouldn't even go inside. We just sit, park outside and just listen to him play.
Mm. I'm going to interject this, but then I'm going to try to be a little bit more of a fly on the wall and let you guys talk. But the guy who ran the guitar department was a guy named Jimmy Wallace at Arnold and Morgan Music. And he's the guy who was impressed with Darrell. And Jimmy Wallace played with some pretty heavy guys down in Texas. Okay. Right. And he was like, he started, I think, one of the Texas guitar shows or something. He's had a career, but he was a great guitar player. So for him to be talking about Darrell at 13, you got to see this kid. Yeah. There was obviously something to see.
Yeah.
Right.
It was,
which we all knew later. Man.
He was just born to play guitar. It's just very simple.
Right. Okay, you guys go.
Okay, so now you're talking about meeting Darrell at the Iron Maiden show. Yeah. You got your skinny tie on.
Yep.
How old were you at this point?
16.
16. How long had you been playing guitar?
Maybe a year.
Okay,
I started about 15 is when I could.
And again, obviously, between Dean and Dime Guitars and all this stuff, there's that. But you're the guest today. I want to know about your guitar journey also. So you said you were into new wave and I don't know, what were you into, A Flock of Seagulls and stuff like that?
Just Blondie and NXS and
nice.
Duran Duran and stuff like that.
Okay. So what was your first guitar?
A Gibson Les Paul Firebrand.
Okay.
So yeah, it was.
I have to throw some images. Please, any photos you got.
It was the ugliest guitar, but it was my baby.
We got a recurring theme here of your first guitar being the worst, the ugliest guitar. What was yours? The Gibson?
The Gibson ES-120.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Gibson made some shit guitars back in the day, but we all got one.
Well,
they made some good guitars too.
My mom got it for me because it looked more traditional with the brown and just whatever, just a plain brown electric guitar.
All right, so you run into Darrell at the Iron Maiden show, and he's like, "What the hell are you doing here?"
Just kept running. It's like we live close to each other, so we just kept running into each other. In this.
How far did you guys actually live? 10 minutes, 20 minutes?
2 minutes.
Oh, okay, so really close.
Same hood, yeah.
Okay. So at what point do you wind up? I mean, obviously, it's hilarious when we post these images. You were at the shop not too long ago, and we posted a picture of me and Rita and Dean and the rest of the shop, and everyone is like, "Oh my God, Grady's there!" So people know who you are. But how did you land that seat into really being integrated into the Dime camp?
When I was working at the music store and he was giving lessons, I started taking lessons from him. And then he was like, screw all this lesson shit. Just come to my house. Let's just hang out. So we just started hanging out and we became really tight. And I'm thinking 19. I was 19, 18, 19. Mm-hmm. And
he's 1 year older than you.
Yeah. Okay. And we just became really close, inseparable friends, And the bands that I was in at the time, I was in a band called Defiance, and we would open up for Pantera and a cover band. And
what genre was Defiance? More metal?
Yeah, metal.
Okay.
Just hair
metal. So at some point you made the switch from new wave to metal.
Yeah, I only did the new wave thing just because it was the only band I could find at the time.
Okay.
So I just did that, and then it turned into Dokken and stuff like that.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And then after that, I got into a band called Cat Daiquiri, and we opened up for Pantera, and this was in '88 or New Year's Eve of '87, and we sucked just enough, good enough, man, just for them to man, we just want you guys just to open up for us all the way, So we must have played 150 shows with them the next year in '88. Every weekend we were playing with them.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
So you mentioned you're 19, so that puts Darrell at 20, Vinny at 22-ish, whatever. When did Phil join the group?
In '88 for Power Metal. '87. Okay. I think it was. And then they recorded Power Metal.
Yeah, but you were basically out with them for a hot minute.
Yeah, I was the only time when at the end of the band I was in, Cat Daiquiri or whatever, it was it was the night that Pantera got signed to Atco, the night that
So you were there?
Yeah, my band opened.
Yeah.
And then some stuff happened with his guitar tech that night. I don't remember all the details, but I just remember him, approaching me in the bathroom going, dude, I just fired my guitar tech. And we're about to be signed by Atlantic Records. You want to be my guitar tech? And I'm like, sure. So
in the bathroom.
In the bathroom.
An iconic time. Yeah.
I'll never forget it,
Yeah.
It's just ingrained in my head. So then for a month or so, I was playing in the opening band and doing my stuff. And then,
double duty.
Doing double duty.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was that night like? Was the A&R guy there that night? Mm-hmm. Okay, so what was that like? I mean, that must be a huge night for a band.
But it was an unannounced thing.
I was going to ask if they have prior knowledge.
No, they were just playing a birthday party at a small club. And I think, I'm not sure on all the details, but I'm pretty sure that there was bad weather at DFW, and they just told Mark Ross to go see this band Pantera while you got time, or whatever. And he came out and was like blown away.
So at this point, what was the club-sized crowd draw of Pantera, like on the local spectrum?
It's hard to say, but I mean, every club was just packed to the rafters.
Okay.
And it was like, and it was a circle because it was like, DFW, Oklahoma, Shreveport, Houston. DFW, Oklahoma, Shreveport, Houston.
Yeah, so like regional.
Yeah.
Okay.
But people are like in line to get into the club
they've
to see
heard of this
Pantera.
band.
Absolutely. There was never a night that there weren't people just jam-packed.
Right.
That's really cool.
Until Cowboys from Hell tour.
Yeah.
So they were undeniable.
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, a record company guy couldn't miss.
Just absolutely. Right. I mean, there was, there wasn't like any weak points about that band at all. I mean, everything was just like, holy shit, why aren't these guys huge,
So you said that that Darrell fired their previous guitar tech. Did you know that guitar tech? Mm-hmm. Can you divulge anything on that? Like, why do you think he got fired? Was he not the right fit? Or was he just not like a career guy?
I'm not sure, man.
Yeah.
I just, it was all a blur to me because, it was like, I was trying to go a different path with my personal life.
Sure.
I was trying to get out of the band thing because the band thing just wasn't working out. And Darrell just kind of like sucked me into the black hole of
Pantera.
And
then your life is forever ruined. You're on the road.
I quit. I kind of started doing the college thing, and then I had to go tell my mom and dad that hey, look, I'm gonna drop out of college and go on tour with Pantera. Okay, and that.
Were they supportive?
Not at all.
Okay. Did that ever change?
Yeah. It did.
Moscow change it? Like,
my mom was always supportive. My dad, being a master sergeant in the Air Force for 27 years, was less than supportive.
Yeah, that's the ROTC stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Wait, did you have long hair?
Huh?
Did you have long hair?
I started to. Yeah.
Was that a problem at home?
Yeah.
Cut back to episode 2.
I digress.
The first time that my dad saw Darrell, I'll never forget it as long as I live. But Darrell came up in his yellow Firebird, and he screeched his tires into the driveway. And you know how dads are. They go to the front door, and they open up the curtain to see who's out there. And he just goes, "Son, what the fuck is that?" And I'm like, "It's my new friend Darrell. See you later. Bye."
When we got Rita on in here, we'll have to ask her what her parents' first impression was.
Yeah, that's a good one to bring up.
But but my mom, on the other hand, would be like, "Your friend Darrell's coming over. I like him. I made you guys sandwiches, and I've got cold Coors Lights in the refrigerator."
Nice. Okay, so
hold on. He was a really good guy, wasn't he? I mean,
amazing.
Had a heart.
Amazing.
Then.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine him being any different, but
I was just, I was always, as his friend, I was always still in, like, we were close friends before I started working for him or whatever, and I was just always in awe of him in general, just at what a person he was and what a good person he was and what a character he was, like, just like always in awe, and always just felt lucky to be hanging around this dude,
Okay, so when you're all there and Darrell enters the room, did it just become entertaining, or?
It always was.
Yeah.
It was always like, you're throttle can be like this, and the second that Dime walks in the room, it's just like,
right.
Here we go.
Here's a question, because I hear the way you refer to him all the time. At what point, because you've been referring to him, at least as far as I've been hanging around you, you always call him Dime. At what point did like the camp adopt calling him Dime versus Darrell? Because again, he was Diamond for a while,
Well, I think, it was always Dime, as far as I can remember.
Even in the Diamond.
Yeah, because Dime was short for Diamond.
Sure. Okay.
Who
coined Diamond?
The fans, right? No, I mean the fans caused.
I'm not sure that was before my time, but I think with the Van Halen connection and Diamond David Lee Roth.
Yeah. Okay, I get it.
That might be a little bit of.
Is it true?
Rita's going to know that a lot more.
Yeah,
than me.
and this is a question that I've seen. Did Darrell and Vinny and the band, did they ever have like I'm in a touring band, and we always have like our little pre-show fist bump, and we have like a slogan we say before we go on stage. Did the Abbott brothers ever say Van Halen? Was that like a thing for them? I had heard they would like say Van Halen before going on stage because they wanted to emulate that energy.
I think that started in the Damage Plan years. It was just it started.
Just curious. Yeah, I've seen a lot of that written around. Right. Okay, so now you're on board, you're guitar teching. Had you been doing any guitar teching, or was it mostly just because...
Absolutely not.
Okay, so you play guitar, you're friends with Darrell, and he's just like...
He's teaching me everything that he wants me to know about his stuff.
Okay.
And I'm just...
Absorbing it.
And branching out on my own as best I can.
Okay. Was he playing Floyd's at this point?
Uh-huh.
Did you have Floyd experience?
No.
Okay.
But I mean, it's like with anything, you figure it out.
Yeah.
And then you have to, you figure out what works best for him too, not what works best for.
Correct. Yeah.
He tells you how he wants it done, and then you figure out how to, to abide by that, and then you get it done the way he likes it, and you just branch off from there.
Yeah. So you're hired on. Do you remember what your first tour was, or your first show?
It was a club show. I can't, I don't remember like the first night, but I always remember that I, just incredible amount of butterflies, always incredibly nervous, always incredibly because he was my friend, first of all, and my best friend, I just wanted things to be perfect for him every night.
Yeah.
And then when things weren't, it was like, you're your own hardest critic.
Yeah.
And you just beat yourself. I just beat myself up like, this wasn't right. And, but, just learn that way, just by what he told me.
So what were some of the first things that, you had to get down pat for his play style and setup and stuff? Obviously, there's the Floyd, which was kind of newish to you. Were there tuning things? Were there setups that you weren't familiar with? Or was it...
It was basically the quarter step tuning, and it was like we just had one of those old Boss TU2s, and he's like, well, put the needle right there and put it at D sharp. And I was like, okay, because that didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
The needle was always in the middle with a couple of green lights, and you're good. And I was like, well, why is this a quarter step? He goes, well, Van Halen's a half step. We don't want to be Van Halen, so we're just going to go quarter step. Plus it gives Phil a little more room to... I guess.
Squeak up,
Just to squeak up.
That's cool.
Very little room, though.
Yeah, only a quarter step, but, that's better than nothing.
And it's, to this day, it's enough to get people to, what tuning is that?
I'll never forget trying to learn those songs. It's like, why am I not in tune? God damn it. That was like early internet stuff. So,
yeah.
I've got a little thing. What else was he innovating? I mean, he was like kind of like an inventor of metal coming, What else was he innovating?
As far as guitar goes?
Just style. I think
being Dimebag Darrell, what was he?
Just his the squeals were always a big thing, because I'd never heard, the squeal thing until, I know that a lot of guitar players did it, but I never heard a guitar player incorporate it into his, playing like Dime did.
Yeah.
And just how fast he was. That just would always just boggle my mind at how fast he was.
Yeah.
And
Did you watch his playing progress? Like, was he just getting better in leaps and bounds while you're watching, or was he always just great?
It got to be like effortless.
Right.
That was the thing that I would, that I would watch. Is like he could just go out there and you'd think that his mind wasn't in it or whatever, and it'd be like, holy cow, I never. He could go out there drunk as a boot. I mean, drunk as a boot, and barely stand up. And then I'd always have a Q wedge or whatever, and he would sound perfect. I mean, it just blew my mind. I'm like, he's not, he can barely stand up, and he's playing like, he's been rehearsing for the last 5 hours.
Yeah. That's cool.
But yeah, his playing was always just spot on, and his improvising was always spot on, and just everything.
You're here, and you're in and out a couple times in the year, depending on what's up. So we are going to do a more gear kind of oriented interview after this. So we're going to try and keep it more personal based. But let's talk about like touring and stuff. When you started hopping on the first tours and stuff, were they on buses at that point? Were you ever schlepping it in a van?
The first tour we did was an RV.
Okay.
Opening up for Suicidal Tendencies and Exodus.
Nice. Okay.
And we destroyed that RV. I mean, it was nothing but an RV shell.
Did you buy it? Rent it?
We rented it, but we ended up buying it. They sued us and because we just there was no windows in it. It was just a shell. There was no shitter underneath. All the undercarriage was ripped off. Everything was ripped off the sides.
Yep.
We had album flats in the window taped in, to shut the breeze out. And we just, me and Guy Sykes, their tour manager, we just, Guy's girlfriend or whatever at the time followed us in a car, and we drove the RV up and we wheeled around the back behind the center, and then we just jumped out of it and jumped in the car and took off. We were just like done with it. And then I think it was like a $60,000 at the time, payment.
Okay, fun.
And then
I've got a question. The famous Moscow show was in '91, and when did the touring start? Like, was it regional tours or were there national tours? I mean,
how much overseas stuff were you doing prior to Moscow?
We just did a open up for Judas Priest and Annihilator for one tour for like 8 weeks, six to 8 weeks.
So that was your only Euro experience, was that?
At the time, yeah.
And then...
But were you touring the United States, the whole thing, or was it more regional at that point?
It was just the U.S.
But you were going all over
Canada,
country,
yeah, from like 90.
Just North America,
yeah. From like late 89 to 90 to when they went into the studio for Vulgar Display of Power. It was the U.S. So we did the one Judas Priest tour.
So they're touring the country, supporting their albums as they come out, right?
Yes.
And then somewhere in the middle there, somehow you guys end up in Moscow at that thing.
Recording Vulgar Display of Power, and, the management with, I'm not sure how that all came together, but it just came together and like, hey, you guys want to go to Moscow? And they were like, yeah. And so we tore down the stuff from the studio and packed it up and went over.
So you don't know how that came about there, why they picked Pantera?
I think it's something to do with Warner Brothers and Atco and friends, and I'm not exactly too...
So they probably just knew this band was a juggernaut and said it would just blow up on that show.
Yeah.
Okay, because they were... I mean, you guys can talk about this, but they were the only unknown band on that show, right? I mean, I shouldn't say unknown.
Pretty much. It was like, fly us all the way over there to do 6 songs and see ya. It was like just 30 minutes of
Right, but who are the other bands on the bill?
Black Crowes, Metallica, and AC/DC.
Okay.
Right. Okay, so we've talked about this before, and it's kind of interesting. Obviously, teching difficulties come up.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the difficulties that showed up at Moscow.
At the Moscow show?
Yeah.
Well, I think we should set up how big was that show, because that was...
How many was it?
Let's talk about what it was.
2 million?
I was going to say 1.5, 2 million.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a free concert.
I can't even, what's the population of Chicago? We're going to have to,
Well, downtown's 2 million, I think. The suburban areas, maybe.
But Chicago proper is so this is the entire city of Chicago condensed.
Yeah.
Can you describe? I mean, we'll throw up some clips and stuff, but what was the environment? Because it basically looks like a giant open, almost like a Midwestern field. What did it look like in person?
It was Tashino Airfield, so it was a air base.
Yeah.
And there's a picture going around of...
What was the weather? What did it look like? All that, everything.
Weather was cloudy and, it wasn't cold or anything.
Yeah, like 70, 65 is whatever.
There's a picture going around, though, of me and Darrell in front of some semis or whatever, and I'm restringing a guitar. And it was at that Moscow show. It was like we didn't have any kind of area or anything. It was all just kind of thrown together. Mm-hmm. The band just had a tent for the dressing room.
Okay.
But we had an interpreter with us, that was really cool.
How many people spoke English?
Just the interpreter.
Just the interpreter.
Pretty
okay.
much. We just had to go come stay with me.
Okay, so they get a call. Do you want to play this show in Moscow? And they're like, "Yeah, we're going." Okay, so the next thing you know, you're on a plane to Moscow. The whole band. How did it?
Yeah, we loaded up the stuff in a sea container, or a pallet, and then the next thing we know, we're over there, and then we're driving out to the airfield, and it's pulling it off an Antonov Russian airplane, a big old Russian cargo plane, and we're on the tarmac pulling the stuff off, and get into a taxi ride of close to dying, Dude takes a wrong turn down a highway and then realizes 2 miles down the highway that he's taking the wrong highway, and then gets on the shoulder and backs up 2 miles.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and we're just like...
Were you getting a lot of support from the promoter, or were you guys kind of just on your own?
I feel like we were just kind of on our own.
Trying to navigate Moscow?
The field was muddy, and we were just trying to figure it out. We got taken on a trip and to a dinner and things, and
right.
We were kind of taken care of.
Right.
But, as far as the gig goes, it was just like, it wasn't very well organized.
Okay, so you're at the show. What did you have? For shows of this magnitude, sometimes there's a whole rehearsal and sound check the day before. Not this time.
No.
Okay, so what was your time frame and the problems that arose therein?
Time frame was no time.
Okay.
Throw your shit up and go. And there was no rehearsal, no nothing. It was just, but those dudes could do that kind of stuff, no problem.
They were tight.
We throw our stuff up, and I turn the amps on, and then the first thing I hear is Russian walkie-talkie coming through the guitar rig, just so loud, and I'm like, what's going on? And I go look at the wireless, and it's coming through on the wireless, and it's my
just Dime's channel?
Yeah, it's my one channel. VHF.
Rex was good?
Yeah, he had a VHF, but it was his was one in the 150s. Mine was 19120, and it was...
So you're just hitting interference like crazy.
Yes, and it was Russian walkie-talkie, I think. Some kind of military channel could have been as well. And so, the stage was ginormous, and I told Darrell 2 seconds, and we had 5 minutes, and I was like, dude, all I got is a cable. You got to have a cable, because we don't have, the wireless is not going to work, man. And he's like, I ain't going out on that motherfucking stage with a motherfucking cable. And I'm like, you have to, because otherwise you're not going to be playing guitar. And he's like, well, how long's the cable? And I'm like, 25 feet.
Yeah, the stage is probably 75 until you get to the front.
It would get him to maybe his middle cabinet and not all the way downstage. Yeah. It was god awful. And
so he's freaking out?
He's completely freaking out. Yeah, and this is bad. This is bad for me. It's bad. It's the last thing I want.
Literally one of the biggest shows ever.
The biggest show. Yeah, and it ends up being the biggest show ever.
Yeah.
And so at the last minute, one of the guitar techs that was working for Jason Newsted, his name was Andy Batty. He always watched over me. He watched over me on the Judas Priest tour, because I'm still learning and don't know things. And he fixed the guitar rig a couple times for me.
Okay.
So Andy Batty, really good friend. And so a couple minutes before the show, comes up and he goes, hey, this is a UHF system. It's brand new. It's Jason Newsted's backup. Just hook this thing up. And so it was just plug it in, hook it up, throw a pack on the guitar, and Darrell took off,
Did you even check it?
No.
So you're like you're hanging on a prayer, yeah.
It is no time to check it. Just clipped it on, taped it up, go.
And then history was made.
Yeah. And it sounded so good too. I mean, it's like you look at the footage and it's like I look at the footage and I'm like, yeah, it looks like we had our shit together. Everything was all planned.
Yeah, but people don't see the behind the scenes shit.
None of that stuff, And
okay.
I frequently talk to Andy and just go, I owe you my life, bro. Every time I see this.
Are you still in contact with him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so what did it feel like teching on stage, watching Pantera, and specifically Dimebag, flying across that stage with like 1 million people in your view?
Did you ever think it was going to get that big?
I just,
just take it as it happens.
Yeah, and it's also like when you're teching for somebody, it doesn't really, the crowd size doesn't matter in a way. It's hard to focus on like the gravity of
you're not the performer
of the crowd size.
Right.
I'm focusing on making sure the guitar is okay.
Right.
It's like only afterwards that I watch the footage and I'm like, holy cow, man! Look at all the people.
Right.
But the important thing was it was a great show. The band was happy and things were great. There was a real nice high after that one. For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the footage is just amazing.
Yeah.
Like just Darrell flying around on stage.
So that was 91. That's pre
Vulgar.
Pre-Vulgar.
Did
that show impact their U.S. reception in the 3 years after that, but before Vulgar?
Well, it was like...
Or how did that play out?
With Pantera, it was like the Cowboys from Hell record, we went out and did clubs. And then Vulgar came out, and then it was all theaters.
Yeah.
And then Far Beyond Driven came out, and it went to #1, and it was sheds.
Yeah.
So it was all this natural progression of, small places, medium places, and large places. And all of our crew and all the crew heads, all of our brains were just like, that's the way it's supposed to go,
Yeah.
That's the way it's supposed to happen, but it's like, it's not, it's a lucky thing.
Yeah. So that happens. That's 91. We got Vulgar. Things are growing.
What was his demeanor? I mean, he's getting more famous. He's getting huger. What was his demeanor like?
The same. He never changed. He always just wanted to make people happy and would go the extra mile to, just be himself to people, which I think was the most amazing quality about him is that he, you'd always feel welcome,
right.
No matter if you knew him or not, he would make you, you'd feel like you're his second cousin or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think, again, because we're trying to keep this more about the personas and the camaraderie as opposed to the gear cast, which we'll do later. But so you're on the road with them. How many other personnel was there besides the band? I mean, you're teching. Were there any other additional techs? Lights, sound? Like, how many people were you riding with? And like when you're living in a bus with a bunch of dudes, drinking every night and sleeping in these tubular beds, like you got to have some fucking crazy bus stories and shit like that you really think of that stand out. Like,
dude, I mean,
I'm sure you could write a book on that, but like some of the, like, could you give us a little teaser into some of those?
It was always just full throttle.
Yeah.
It was always a party. There was never a night where everybody just would sit around and go, hey, man, I think I'm going to read a book. Chill out.
Okay, so it was maximum party.
Every night.
Yeah.
Every single night. There was like...
was there a particular instigator, or would it kind of rotate, or was everyone kind of contributing to the mess?
Darrell was always the life of the party.
Okay.
And, I can tell you that. Darrell was always the life of the party. There was always something going on. There was always some kind of a plan going on, some kind of thing to catch a nut on, some kind of thing to break, some kind of thing to blow up, just whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I know about Darrell is when there would be fans or somebody brought in, like we'd bring in a crew or whatever, and they'd all want to party with Darrell. Mm-hmm. And they'd go out and party with Darrell. And it didn't stop. Like, as soon as all the bars closed, he's looking for a casino because they're open, It never ended, okay? And nobody knew the ride they were in for, okay? And then the next day, those guys would be annihilated like it was the most fucked up they've ever been.
Yeah.
And they're out of commission. And Darrell does it again the next night in another town. You know what I mean? He had this ability. Partying was just part of his.
It's just
persona.
Persona. But it's almost like
eating dinner.
I mean, we play guitar, we party, and we live for. And we do it again tomorrow.
I'll find the article. I'll pull it up. It was some big band, like maybe not Motley Crue, but or some huge band made a comment, and they were like, "We thought we could drink. Pantera was the only band that outdrank us." And I've seen that from a couple bands before. So
you ain't gonna keep up with us.
There was some like myth story.
Although Pantera,
those
dudes they'd run it.
They keep up.
Oh yeah.
So you said you worked with them until 2001. Did you have how much contact did you have with Darrell? Post Pantera, Damage Plan, were you still tight with the Abbott brothers or Phil, or when Pantera split? What did you do?
Well, they didn't split. So where my part came in was Down was going to go out on the road, and Philip and Rex were part of that, and they wanted me to go. And it was supposed to be with everybody in the band's blessing that Down was going to go out on tour, and I asked Dime if I could go. I said, hey, man, Rex wants me to go tech for him, and I ended up teching for everybody in Down.
Okay.
Except the drums, but I did all the backline. And, Dom's like, sure. And then from my memory, it got caught up in this whirlwind of Down was supposed to stay out for 3 months. They ended up wanting to stay out for 6 months. And then that's when things started getting dicey between the brothers or whatever. After the 6-month thing was over, I went and it had fallen apart. I kind of went and helped Dime get some stuff together with Damage Plan.
Yeah.
But then when it came time for touring, I couldn't go out with Damage Plan because the money that he offered me was way different from what I was being offered with other bands, and I'm like, I've got a wife and a mortgage and a kid and
on that. So
it was a bad time, that I couldn't be there for him.
Yeah. And Pantera was your first teching gig, yeah?
Yeah.
So when you were off, in between Pantera gigs, who else were you out with that people, who else were you working for?
I never did anything in between Pantera gigs because I always would do the studio with them too.
Okay.
So
you were in there for every recording session?
Yes.
Did you have any impact on from a production standpoint, amps, picks, strings, whatever, pedals? Or were you just a fly on the wall and just taking it all in?
No, I would set everything up and take care of him and make sure that he was all good. And
there's a little overlap, obviously, with the gear cast that we're going to do. But did you have any impact on stuff he was using?
No, it was all him.
Okay,
it was all him. I mean, I would throw my 2 cents in when it was needed. But it was all his direction and all his direction, all his mind, all his things that he wanted to do, wanted to try. Let's run this cab at 2 ohms. Okay. Let's blow this up. Type of thing. So.
Okay, so then fast forward from. You've had involvement and integration from touring to studio. Now that Pantera is reunited and we've got Zach and Charlie in the band, can you tell people what your role and involvement is in that regard? Because you'd mentioned that Zach's tech is out there too, so we've got double guitar tech duties. What are you trying to direct or keep in this touring setup?
Just mainly working with Zach's tone. Zach has his way of the way he wants things to go. He wants to use his Marshalls and his own. In his Zach Wildbrand stuff, and he wants to have his pedal board and things that, it's tubes and EMGs, which is far from solid state and passives. And so my role is just to try to integrate some of Dime's stuff into Zach's stuff.
Okay, so are you giving him certain tips, pedals?
I'm not giving him any tips. No. Okay. Yeah. He's
Zach all the way.
He's Zach all the way. I'm just facilitating the whammy and noise gate and.
Are you running the whammy?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's not even stepping on it.
No.
So you're doing all the
Yeah,
okay.
and the funny thing was when they wanted to do Suicide Note, it was like that was a song that Dime did.
Yeah.
He did the whammy on that, and it's like I counted it. It was like 144 whammy parts on it. And I told Zach when in rehearsal, I was like, I
want to raise it.
Well, I was like, are you going to do this? He goes, no, you're going to do it. And I'm like, okay, it's a lot, and it was all. To me, it was like a song that the guitar player
You got to be involved in.
The guitar player had to do.
Yeah.
But and then I just remember Zach just telling me that just going, dude, come on, man, that song blows by 100 miles an hour. Nobody's gonna notice anyway, And I'm like,
yes, they are.
And I'm like, all right, let's just go.
Yeah.
But that's his philosophy. Let's just go, bro.
Okay.
So it's a lot. It's a lot like Darrell.
Right.
Let's just go.
Yeah.
And have fun.
All right. Dean, any closing commentary?
Yeah, I think we missed a little part.
Chime in.
Sure.
Well, we lost Darrell.
Yeah.
2004. And I'm just wondering where you were.
Yeah, what was going through your mind? I mean, how did you find out?
How did you find out?
So here's my story. I was working for the band Stained, and Damage Plan was on the same schedule as it was a festival, and I hadn't seen Darrell since 2002, I think. And so it was for a year, and me and Darrell weren't on the best of terms because he didn't. I think he was mad at me for leaving with Down, and it just ended all like I got kind of put into like this side of the, that side of the sand, the line drawn in the sand for some reason. But anyway, at that festival or whatever, I saw him, and he like just looks at me and opens up his arms, and I hugged out a bunch of shit and talked for a long time. I watched the set, and then we had just gotten cell phones, so that night I was in the back lounge of my bus, he was in the back lounge of his bus, and we talked till the sun comes up, and I'm telling him everything that went on with Down and my apologies and my regrets and all that, and so we got to be on really tight terms again, which I thank God for. And then it was in December, he called and told me that he was teching for himself, and he asked me if he thought I could come up and finish out like the last few shows. He's like, man, I'm stepping on all my own fucking pedals and using a damn cable and not, and just, I'm like, what's going on? What happened? So I said, he goes, I know you just got home from, tour. And I'm like, I did. I just got home yesterday. But he's like, can you come out and finish this up? And I'm like, yeah, I can finish this up. And he goes, it doesn't pay shit. And I'm like, I know it doesn't pay shit. That's why we had this problem. So then he calls me back and he goes, hey, Bushman's going to come out here and just get me home.
Wait, this is the last.
This is December of
that month. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I heard a little bit about this from Darrell prior to, so I'll film it. But go on.
And he goes, well, my rig's all fucked up, so just when I get off this thing, he goes, Bushman's going to come out and get me home. And he goes, but when I get home, dude, we got to rebuild the rig and just, I said, I'll be there, man. Let's get the rig back up and I'll go back out, man. We'll get this thing figured out. I'll go back out with you. We'll figure out the money thing. And so I didn't go, and then a friend of mine had called, it was a landline at my house, and I was like, who's calling me at 2 a.m, and it was a friend of mine just saying, Darrell's been shot. And my first thought was like, my first thought, I didn't know that he'd been killed because he said shot. And my first thought was like he played a prank on the wrong person, because he's always playing pranks on somebody. And I was like, oh, he played a prank on the wrong person. It's like, no, dude, he's dead. And I'm like,
Jesus.
It was just like my world stopped,
Right.
And yeah, that's how that all went down. But I'm just very thankful that we had some closure from that shitty little part right there, and had a future to look forward to.
Right.
I was really just, thankful that I wasn't there too, because I probably wouldn't be here either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
It was, like when you said he was saying he's teching himself, he was calling me and it's like, yeah, I was fired that asshole or something. He's I'm teching myself.
The fourth one or
and
something.
he's like, I just did 3 in a row and blah, blah, blah. So he was literally, I was like hearing it from Darrell.
Yeah.
Probably at the same time you were.
Yeah. He said he was calling himself the Idol.
Yeah.
Calling myself the Idol, dude, because I'm doing my own shit.
I'll tell you something. I had to deliver the Razorback to him that it was going to be delivered that night that,
transpired.
I'm sorry, it was going to be delivered the next day.
Oh.
Okay. And I'm like, whoa, he's got to strap this thing on and wear this guitar so we can photograph it. And so I'm like, he needs strap locks. So this is for the night that the tragedy happened. At like 5, 6 in the afternoon, I'm like going to Guitar Center just to buy a set of strap locks.
Right.
And I still have the strap locks.
Oh.
They're in my drawer in my laser. I'll show them to you guys.
They're at the shop right now?
Yeah, in my
I know
my
where they're
drawer,
at, yeah.
my laser. And all I think about every time while I'm going out and what's on my mind is getting him a pair of strap locks and some other dude's planning his murder.
Yeah.
The dichotomy, of what two people are doing.
Right.
And it's weird. It's just a shitty little set of strap locks.
Yeah.
But it's like some reminder of how fragile life is. And, you know.
I'd just gotten off tour and was, trying to, rewind with 2 kids and trying to get my life figured out and trying to, calm down and relax a little. And then, was ready for Dime to get back so we could get back to business and see his ass and
I remember you were this close to maybe being at that show.
Yeah, he asked me to come do it. And then I was like, yeah, I'll come. He goes, didn't pay anything. I'm like, I know. That's why we have the problem. And then he called back. He goes, I don't want to take you away from your kid. Well, Bushman will come out here and do it. Speaking of kids, and this will speak for, this is a story that's been told before, but it bears repeating. Speaking of kids, when my son was first born, our first house that we had, me and the wife, our air conditioner went out, and we live in Texas, and I, air conditioners are expensive, and I didn't have any money to repair it or anything, and I'm talking to him on the phone, and I'm like, yeah, my AC just went out, dude. I think we're gonna have to try to go squeeze a hotel or go stay at my mom's. I'm not sure what we're doing, and next thing I know, 2 hours later, an AC company comes out, pulling up in front of the house with a whole interior and exterior unit and air carrier and everything. And I called him up. I'm like, dude, I can't pay for this because it's, $10,000 worth of air conditioning stuff. And he's like, don't worry about it. We got to keep that baby cold. That's just the kind of guy who was like, don't fucking worry about it. We just got to keep that baby cold.
Right.
And it's, it was just like, I don't know. It's just that's just the kind of guy he was.
No. Okay. Definitely. It's
one of a kind.
We're all sitting here. Rita's
You're both really lucky. I'm jealous. Like the involvement you had with that is,
I get it, but you know who should be sitting here right now?
him.
Dimebag Darrell should be sitting right here, and we should be talking about building this new brand.
Yeah.
And we should have no other problems with any other guitar companies. We should be free rolling right now.
Yeah.
On a really quick lighter note, Darrell took me porn shopping for the first time. He made me eat a salad for the first time because I had to. If it wasn't pizza or hamburgers, I wouldn't eat it. He made me eat a taco for the first time because tacos had lettuce on them, so I wouldn't touch them.
Oh my God!
And then he also got me high the first time and made me spray paint some lightning bolts on a Dean guitar that he had. So,
there you go.
He was always my big street smart brother, and I was always like the Anthony Michael Hall.
That's my favorite. Yeah, that's the best comparison.
And I will tell you, last night we had a big meal here, which Susie prepared for the Dimebag extravaganza that always piles into the house. And Grady ate vegan last night.
Oh, wow, yeah. Look at you, Dean.
I did go vegan.
Grady's not a vegan, but I think he does it for me.
I do.
Yeah.
I do, of course.
Cool.
Right. So I you don't know how I appreciate that. And
Heck yeah.
how that cow appreciated it.
Well,
So that's Grady Cast 1.
Okay.
all good.
Grady, it's great. Well, it's great. We hang, but it's great having you tell your stories.
I've got a lot more. So
I know.
My pleasure.
This was very broad brush.
It's very, and this is just a blast to be here.
Right. Well, thank you.
Talking smack.
We have a good time, but there'll be more stories as we're building more guitars.
Absolutely.
And Grady is going to be very integral in the new factory.
Yes.
Making sure that
We'll get on that soon.
every guitar is going to be set up for dime stage by Grady.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Somebody's got to do it.
Right.
We're done?
We're done.
There you go.
All right.
Great job, Grady.